Welcome to episode 87 of the Broadway Shuffle. For Clayton, Zyler, I am Conrad. We are missing Brennan tonight. He is having some internet issues. So if you would let Brennan know in the comments how much you missed him on this episode tonight. Zyler, I want to go to you first for our first word segment.
Yeah, I know we're going to get into the offensive line and the tight ends today, but first thing I wanted to talk about is the fake uproar about Texas Tech in the softball portal. I know people maybe aren't keeping too close to tabs on softball right now, but the hand wringing from the SEC folk over what Texas Tech has done in the softball portal. They've landed 5 players in the top 30 of the On3 transfer ratings. And there was just a massive outroar about how Texas Tech is ruining college sports by doing what the SEC has done to every single program for the last 20 years in every major sport. Tech found the loophole. Tech found the NIL loophole, and they decided to invest in a non-revenue sport, and people are somehow upset about that. Spare me the outrage. It's ridiculous. They're investing where they want to invest, and they want to be good in softball. If that upsets other fan bases, big deal. I don't have any sort of sympathy to that. You've been on the other end of this for 40, 50 years in athletics. I've got no problem with what Texas Tech is doing there. I wouldn't have any problem if it was Baylor doing this. It doesn't bother me one bit. People can choose to invest their money where they want to invest it, and they're only playing by the rules. There's nothing illegal about what's going on here. Even the alleged tampering allegations are within the confines of what every single program does in football and basketball. So that's my first word of the day. Shout out to the Sellers family for funding our softball program. I know it's not my favorite sport in the world, but I enjoyed the run that we had. And I appreciate their investment into Tech athletics.
Yeah, it's interesting when you play by the rules and people get upset about it. I don't really understand that. I don't know if Clayton does, but we're just investing and doing what everybody else has been doing, like you said, for 40, 50 years, except it just wasn't permitted. So, and if you're here for the first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button. About 56% of you that watch our episodes are not subscribed to the channel, so it helps out the show a lot. If you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, it helps us grow and reach new Texas Tech and new college sports fans as well. So, I want to get into the episode tonight. We are talking about the Texas Tech offensive line and the tight ends for 2025. That has been a topic of discussion amongst Texas Tech fans for really a long time. I mean, it's some people have been pretty upset with it. Some people are really happy that we invested in it the way we did. Clayton, what are your initial thoughts looking at this year's offensive line compared to the 2024, maybe 2023 or 2022 offensive lines compared to what we're going to see in 2025?
Yeah, I'm excited about this year's. I feel like the thing that sticks out to me about this season's O-line, at least going into the season, is the depth. Like the guys that you see that are not on this or not listed as starters on this initial preseason depth chart, I feel like would easily be starters on any of like the last like 8 Tech teams, which is a good thing. I also think we have some like legit NFL talent on the offensive line, which to me on O-line and D-line specifically, you need like actual NFL guys to really translate even into college. And hopefully Howard Sampson is a draft pick, and then Zambrano, and I think a couple other guys are getting a little bit of draft type, and then you have some young guys. So I think, yeah, to answer your question, the depth is super exciting, especially like last season losing Scurry in like the 3rd game. And that pretty much wrecked our O-line for the rest of the season. It already wasn't good before that. You'd hope that this season, if we were to lose someone, you'd be able to withstand that because of the guys you have behind them.
Yeah, I think, when you look at the guys coming back, well, actually, starting with the departures, you lose who I think was probably your best lineman last year in Caleb Rogers. I don't know if you guys disagree on that. I know the oft beleaguered Caleb Rogers, he was the target of many fans' ire, but I think, and myself included, but I think looking back on his career, we asked him to play out of position for almost the entirety of his Texas Tech career, and he did it, willingly, and did it pretty effectively as a tackle. I think he's probably a little bit underrated by Tech fans, so that's a guy that, I think you'll miss a little bit, but then you lose Sterling Porcher. He goes to Vanderbilt. Dalton Merriman heads down to Houston, and then Ty Buchanan goes to Arizona. So guys that end up at pretty decent spots, not necessarily upgrades, but I think everything that you did bringing in guys to replace them. I think Clayton mentioned Howard Sampson. That's kind of where I want to start the conversation. He's the only guy that I've got sharping in right now at left tackle. I think with a bullet, that's going to be your starting left tackle. He's 6'8", 340 pounds, monster left tackle prospect out of North Carolina. Should be kind of the anchor of your line there. Conrad, where when you think on this line, where are you most excited? Who are you most excited about? Do you think it's going to be better than next year? Kind of answer all of those three.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation that, I mean, we had a lot last year about the offensive line. We've had it on the show talking about quarterbacks, talking about running backs. I mean, you have to have an offensive line that is above average. Like if we want to compete to win the Big 12, it doesn't have to be the best in the Big 12, but it does have to be, top 4, top 5, really to have a chance. And so I think for me, I think whenever you see a guy who's 6'8", 340 like Howard Sampson is, that has to get you excited. Like that has to be a guy that you look at and you see, okay, that guy will probably, if he just works hard and continues to fill out and develop, he'll play on Sundays, right? Like he will be an NFL player. Now, whether he starts or not, that's a whole different conversation at the next level. But thinking about Howard, I think that'll be an anchor for your offensive line, like you said, Zyler, because he really is a guy that you're going to see just from a physical standpoint will really impose his will, hopefully on a lot of defensive lines in the Big 12. But another guy for me that kind of stands out is the guy that we saw in a few games last year. We saw him against North Texas. We saw him against Arkansas in the bowl game. Jacob Ponton. He's going to be a redshirt freshman year, 4-star recruit. Really showed a lot of promise last year. You could see when he did play, though. I mean, he's a freshman, right? He was an 18-year-old kid, so he wasn't as filled out as you'd want him to be. But the fact that he's in a competition challenging for a starting spot with Zambrano for the right tackle position, I think that's a really good sign for you for what he's developing into, hopefully. And even if he doesn't play this year, I think that's a good big step for your team, that you've got a guy that you recruited, that you brought in, and he's challenging a guy who's been in college for a number of years. And so this offensive line, I do feel like, and I think you guys would agree that it's going to be better than what we've seen just on paper right now. We're obviously in June. We're not even to August yet, but on paper, this looks like an offensive line that really is going to play a part in your success this year. And I will go as far to say that this is not an above average offensive line, probably top 5. Like I said earlier, you won't compete for a Big 12 title if it's not top 5, because you need this unit to be good to open up everything else for this offense.
Yeah, I think when I look at it, and we probably should, just for people who aren't aware and maybe aren't in the weeds as much, the projected starters per Joey from an article that Don Williams wrote over in the Lubbock Avalanche Journal was, Howard Sampson at left guard, the Miami, Ohio transfer, Will Jados at left guard. Howard Sampson at left tackle, Will Jados at left guard. Sheridan Wilson, your returning center. Davion Carter, a returning starter for you at right guard. And then a battle at right tackle right now. It'll be Hunter Zambrano, the Illinois State transfer, or it's going to be Jacob Ponton, the redshirt freshman. So that's where things kind of stand currently. Which one of those spots kind of worries you the most? Which one of those spots are you most confident about going into the season? Clayton, I'll go to you for that.
Yeah, I think most confident is definitely Sampson at left tackle. You already talked about that. He's definitely the best or the most talented guy we have. I think the most surprising thing to me was Jados over Vinny Scurry. I don't know if that's Scurry coming back from injury still, because he had a very serious injury, but first 3 games of last year, he was definitely our best offensive lineman. And I guess I also wasn't super high on Jados coming in from the portal, so I was just a little surprised to see that, but not that I'm concerned. I guess more so just caught off guard.
Yeah, Conrad.
Yeah, I think, really not all the spots, but Scurry, like Clayton said, was a good player. Obviously a very good player for you last year. I think he played a big part in, those first 3 games, obviously, before he got hurt. But I don't know that I have one spot. I think really every spot except for left tackle. Sheridan Wilson, I think he's gonna. I think he's a good player. I just need to see more out of him. I think he's got a lot of potential, but at the same time, I'm concerned about kind of those other spots as well. It's just, I think what concerns me most is not just an individual spot, but how do they play together, right? That's so much of an offensive line. These guys are all going to be making their first starts together. Whoever that rolls out there, it's going to be a brand new starting 5, with the exception of Carter and Scurry or whatever happens there, and Sheridan. You just got more moving parts here, and so for me, it'd probably be a collective group rather than an individual group. Zyler, do you have any maybe number one spot? You've already said Sampson is your guy you feel comfortable with, but do you have any spot maybe you're just I don't know, I really wish this position was in a better spot than it is here now?
Okay, so this is going to sound bad. I don't think you have a great option as your 4th tackle. I think Jacob Ponton, let's just assume that he is the swing tackle. So if the left tackle goes down, let's say Zambrano's at right. Zambrano will probably go to left and Ponton will go to right. I don't know who that fourth guy is going to be for you. Now, Will Jados played tackle at Miami, Ohio, and he's big enough, which oddly enough leads me into another point. If you have Davion Carter and Will Jados, Davion Carter sits at right at 6 foot and Will Jados is 6'8". That's going to be the oddest looking like guard tandem in the conference. But that's the one where I'm like, who is the tackle? Who's the fourth tackle? Maybe it's Ellis Davis. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe one of the younger guys. That's one I don't feel like super great about, but that's a decent problem to have. But I guess generally that would be the right tackle spot. Who's going to seize that role? I think I'd love it if Ponton took over. If you've got a redshirt freshman that's beating out a proven, experienced, 22-year-old at that spot who's got 4 years of eligibility, I'm all for that. As long as it's Zambrano was playing really well and Jacob Ponton just played way better. That's a great outcome for Tech, both this season and into the future seasons. I think the biggest place that you've upgraded is at left guard. My thoughts on Sterling last year were very well documented, but he just graded out as the worst one on your line, and it was by a pretty significant margin. That was the weak point, and I like Sterling. I thought he played hard. It just wasn't quite there yet. I think even if you get Vinny or Jados, I think that's going to be an upgrade there, and I think that's going to help your run game quite a bit.
Zyler, that was very kind of you, but you don't have to hide how you really feel on the Broadway Shuffle.
I'm trying to be more diplomatic in the off season, and then I'll really cut loose during the actual season. So I'm gonna go Jekyll Hyde here.
Do you know where? And this is putting you on the spot, but do you know where he finished in all of the Power 4 conferences? Like where did he grade out? Do you know?
I don't know for Porcher. It was not good. I mean, it was. Most guys on the metrics that I use, 10 is about average, and he finished in like the 9 range, which is pretty bad for a Power 5 player. You got to work pretty hard to get down to that level. So yeah, just wasn't quite there for them all season, which is tough. But that's not how the line was supposed to look. Vinny Scurry was supposed to be there, and unfortunately that knee injury kind of blew him out in the Washington State game. So I think the other thing too is you've got 3 guys that you feel pretty decent about. We haven't mentioned Daniel Sill. He'll probably be one of the backup guards, but if Vinny Scurry doesn't win out, that's a great depth piece to have as he kind of recovers from injury. You've got Daniel Sill that would be there. And then we haven't even mentioned the freshman All-American Cash Cleveland who came in from Colorado. So you've got 8 guys that I think you feel pretty good about. Now, guys like Ponton and Sampson, they can't play on the inside. They got to play tackle positions. But you've got 8 guys that you feel pretty decent about, and you're hoping a guy like, Daniel Sill, Holton Hendricks is another guy that may come on. Maybe Ellis Davis emerges. Maybe, you got some of the freshmen that came in, probably not, Gubernick or Elias Gillen or Ren Brown, any of those guys. But, maybe somebody emerges. Maybe you have a Ponton that looks like he's almost ready by the end of his freshman season. So I think you got a lot more depth this year. And I think the high school recruiting that you invested in 23 and 24 is really paying off for you this year on the depth side.
Yeah.
Do y'all have a prediction on if this will be a better run blocking or pass blocking offensive line?
I was going to ask which y'all preferred.
I think it's going to be a better run blocking unit than pass blocking. I think Sampson's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. And I don't know, man, but they were really good. Like Sheridan's grades. Well, I don't know. Actually, I take that back. Looking at this, the only one that I have questions on is Jados. Jados has been a pretty poor pass blocker throughout his whole career, but Sheridan Wilson has elite grades on pass blocking. Davion Carter, elite pass blocking grade. Vinny Scurry, elite pass blocking grade. Howard Sampson's is fine. Jacob Ponton doesn't have enough snaps. Zambrano doesn't really have enough snaps there recently to say anything, but actually pass blocking is what I'm going to say. The numbers kind of convinced me.
Would you, if you had a choice, would you rather them, to be honest, I don't know enough about this group to say, but if you had a choice of whether they're like elite pass blocking or run blocking, which would you take?
Dude, I'm taking the run blocking. Conrad?
I need a 4,000 yard passing season to verify all of my claims this entire offseason and last season. And so I'm going to go with the pass blocking unit.
Dude, it's just when an offensive line is really good at run blocking, sometimes there's just absolutely nothing a defense can do about it.
Yeah, it's demoralizing. The Eagles literally won a Super Bowl off that.
Yeah. And you don't have the Eagles offensive line, but like you've seen when it's just like they can impose their will and it's 5 yards automatically. And it's just there's nothing you can do. That is a That is a very
Well,
powerful force to have.
and let me change my answer because that was kind of tongue in cheek. Because if you can run the ball, you can do anything. And like I think
Mhm.
what could that do? I mean, part of the thing that Tech fans have had to wrestle with in the last maybe decade going back to 2014 2015 in the Cliff years is like you score, your offense was so good and you scored so fast because you had this dynamic passing offense, but you put your defense back on the field so much that it really hurt your defense. Now your defense was not
Yeah.
great in those years, but having the ability to be able to milk clock, and you could kind of do that with Taj, but again, like we said, the offensive line last year wasn't the best. And so if you have like an elite level offensive line or a better run blocking offensive line that can do that and you can milk the clock more, you can just give your all-star defense even more rest. And I think that's only going to bode well for your team as a whole, your wins and losses, but also your quarterback as well. So I think there's a lot of pluses to having a better run blocking offensive line, but we'll have to see how it shakes out.
Yeah. That's a fair point. Conrad, I mean, do you want to transition to tight ends from here?
Yeah, unless do you guys have any? Do y'all have anything else to add on the offensive line?
I think
Where do you think it finishes? Let's stop. Let's finish there, and then we'll add the tight ends in here to this episode. Where does it finish in the Big 12?
If I had to put like the negative case scenario, let's say I'm a Kansas State observer on the line. I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, you're bringing in a new tackle, you're bringing in a new right tackle. You don't really know who it's going to be. Your left guard is potentially a converted tackle. You've got no experience in this system. Those would be kind of all the negatives and the drawbacks. On the plus side, on paper, there's just no way that this line, it's better on paper. Now you got to see it in the game. You got to see what Clay McGuire does with it. You got to see what Leftwich's philosophy is. Sometimes guys just don't work in certain schemes. That's the way things go. But I just really think that this could actually be a strength for you, unlike probably the last 3 or 4 years when you won despite some poor offensive line play. I think you can win some games this year because of your offensive line. And if it is good, it's going to make your receivers look better. It's going to make your quarterback look better. And it's really going to make your running backs look better. DeMarco Murray looked like one of the best running backs in the NFL when he ran behind the Cowboys. And then he went to a new team and it was like, wow, maybe DeMarco Murray really isn't that good. Maybe the Cowboys offensive line is just great. And so I'm hoping Jacoby Williams and Quentin Joyner and Cam Dickey are just gashing teams. And when you can run effectively like that, it opens up so much for you in the passing game. When you get a lot of man coverage, you don't get into 3rd and longs. It's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, or you're in 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2. And that's a great spot for an offense to be in. And I'm hoping that our offensive line allows us to do that.
Yeah, that's well said, Zyler. I agree with you. I mean, I like it. I like seeing our guys one-on-one. If you give me Micah Hudson, Coy Aiken, and Caleb Douglas one-on-one, I like that because I think that's gonna open up. You're gonna gash some teams through the air on a RPO, different things like that. If they do have to worry about the run, that just changes everything. But there are also some other guys that I like one-on-one as well, and those are our tight ends. I think this is this could maybe be the best room you've had in a long time at tight end. I mean, I just think the world of Terrence Carter and John Carlos Miller. I think they're two unbelievably talented guys. Do you have a favorite between the two? Do you have something that maybe stands out looking at those two guys? Because as we're thinking about the trenches and where we sit there, we got to include the tight ends in that conversation because they block and they catch as well.
Yeah, Clayton, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, dude, that's so tough. I feel like I'm biased towards Terrence Carter because he was probably one of my favorite pickups in the portal this year. Just his highlights, his film is so good. He's so athletic. But I'm also really excited about like the chance to play both of them together. I don't know if that's in Leftwich's bag, but like, teams sometimes have a safety that can, guard a tight end fairly well, but there's no way that a team has like a safety and another linebacker to guard both.
Yeah.
I think you could create a lot of mismatches with them. I love having the athleticism because, like with Tharp, he was, he's a good pass catcher, but he doesn't have the athleticism. He's just tall and a good like route runner in space. But these guys, like, I feel like you can, get the ball in their hands and they can make something happen after the catch. So I'm excited for both of them.
Yeah, Terrence Carter had almost 700 yards last year as a tight end. That would have been, that's just a ludicrously high production profile from a tight end. Now, there's, like we talk about, offensive situations dictate a lot of things. Maybe they were playing from behind a lot, but he was just incredibly productive. And he's a receiver. He's not much of a blocker right now. I think John Carlos is a better blocker than him, or at least has shown that so far. You don't really have But behind them, I'm not really sure who your third tight end is. Not that I think that's going to play a huge role in your season this year, but is it Jason Llewellyn, the OU transfer? Is it Trey Jackson, the Southwest Cliff, the redshirt freshman? Like, I'm not really sure where we go from there, but Terrence and John Carlos are a nice little 1-2 pairing that should be one of the better groups in the Big 12, especially just on the elite top end talent. If you haven't watched Terrence Carter, I mean, he's 6'2", 250. He is a humongous tight end that can move well in space, incredibly hard to bring down. And like Clayton said, there's going to be some times where we get him matched up on a 6'1", 200-pound linebacker, and it's just going to be an incredible mismatch. Or he gets the 6'2", 190-pound safety, and he's going to drag that guy right into the end zone. Just an elite athlete. Oddly enough, the depth chart came out from Don Williams, and he had John Carlos ahead of Terrence Carter. That's at least what Joey told him right now, and so maybe that's a motivational tactic. Maybe John Carlos really stepped it up this spring, but that surprised me a little bit. I'm expecting Terrence to receive the lion's share of the work here, so that kind of caught me off guard.
Well, either way
I
you
agree.
look at it, I mean, both those guys are going to play. I mean, they're gonna play. Maybe John Carlos was there because of what Clayton said. I mean, he is a better blocker than Terrence. I mean, Terrence is just an absolute freak when it comes to athleticism, and I think that's why you're going to see him. But you may see, let's just play it out a little bit. You may have John Carlos on the right end line of scrimmage, and then you'll have let's just say Micah, and then you have Terrence split out wide in a stack. You just never know what the things you can do with both those guys on the field at the same time. And so I think that when you see both of them play together and be utilized on the field at the same time, I think that's where you're really going to see the matchup nightmares happen. And also what's good for us, at least right now, is that teams don't have film on this in the offseason to prepare for it. Now, they don't film on anybody in college football anymore because everybody switches teams so quickly. But I think looking at those two guys together and what they could be, I think that should make you feel pretty good about the tight end room that we do have and what they can potentially mean to this offense. So where do y'all think those two guys rank in terms of the Big 12? Like, how do we think this room stacks up against, say, like a Baylor or a Utah or in Arizona State? How does this, I mean, I don't know if we well-versed on every single team. I know Zyler is probably better than us, but where do you think those two guys stand in terms of their standing with all the other schools?
Yeah, let me look. I think I'll probably have them behind Baylor. Michael Trigg is just, I mean, he was really good last year, and you've seen it in this system. That means a lot to me. Showing that you can do it in said system is important. Houston actually has a really good tight end. Guy named Tanner Koziel, a Wisconsin transfer who was actually originally from Ball State. He's actually a really good player. Cincinnati has a guy named Joe Royer who's going to be really good. Kansas State has the 5-star Lincoln Cure, but we've not really seen it. Outside of that, though, the rest of the tight end rooms, maybe Arizona State's with Shimon Mateer, but everybody else I'm not necessarily super worried about. TCU maybe has some talent there, but those would be kind of the guys. I bet we'll be like maybe third or fourth, but definitely with the potential to be number one. I just think if you're writing out for production, it's going to be hard to beat Michael Trigg right now or Tanner Koziel. He's just been insanely productive as a tight end.
I think I feel like the theme of our entire team is like if some of these guys hit, their ceiling is some of the highest in the Big 12, but definitely unproven. Some guys from lower levels that haven't played in Power 5, but like, you could easily see the case where like Terrence Carter is like the best tight end in the Big 12.
Oh yeah.
There's other players at other positions that you could say the same for, but they just haven't done it in the Big 12 yet.
Totally. It's a great, Bryce Pollock, great cornerback.
Yeah.
How does it translate to Shieldwood's system? Romello Height, David Bailey, guys that we'll get into on later episodes. Like, what does it look like in a different defense, in a different conference? And maybe it looks better, but there's also a world where it looks worse. So you just don't know. But man, I mean, you got to feel good about this tight end room. This is a guy that graded out as one of the best tight ends in the country last year. Terrence Carter is going to be a threat and something that a player that everybody has to monitor when they're scouting and planning for Texas Tech. And that's not always been the case at the tight end room. Cliff Kingsbury didn't actually know that we had a tight end room. It was something that he didn't actually even care to recruit. So glad that we actually have some weapons there now. And I think
Yeah.
some of the stuff, and this is kind of a digression, but some of the stuff that Leftwich does, you're going to see these tight ends line up as H-backs kind of behind the tackle, not necessarily on the line with the tackle.
Yeah.
They're going to do a ton of neat stuff with how they get them into space and how it just makes it trickier to guard them. They're going to have to do some blocking, but it's a fascinating way to get your tight ends involved. And I think Terrence and John Carlos are going to be great in this. I wish one of them had like elite top end speed, which I don't really think either of them do. But as far as physical point of attack catchers, they're going to be really, really good.
Well, I think that's what's so interesting about. Or go ahead, Clayton.
I was just going to make a comment. I hope we run that like tied in. I don't even know what it's called, but like where they line up where you're talking about behind the tackle and they run to the opposite direction of the line. Like Texas runs that all the time. I feel like it always gains 15 yards.
Dude, and Kitley would run. It's like kind of a weird version of the triple option where you like do an RPO, or it's like kind of an RPO. It is an RPO. But you have the tight end like drags across, so you either run it, hand it to the running back, you dump it to the tight end. I felt like every time we ran it, it was incredibly effective with Conrad.
Yeah. It was, that's Clayton. Exactly what y'all said is what I was going to say, because I think that play, when you do have an athletic tight end or just an average tight end, you can get 15 yards with that. Because I mean, think about how good Conyers was at last year. I mean, I wish we could have. I love Jalen Conyers. I wish we could have him back again this year, because I think he would have been like this room with Jalen Conyers. I think it's easily the best in the Big 12 with Conyers as well, because we didn't use. I mean, we didn't use. I mean, Conyers.
Carter though.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, if we would have paid him enough, maybe we would have. So
good point.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting looking at this room. I mean, I feel really good about it. I think it's like you said, I mean, looking at this whole team, it's kind of, what happens when we actually get on the field, right? Like how does this translate? How do these pieces mesh? And so as we've kind of done the entire offense now. Next episode we'll be talking about defense. I want to close the show with us talking about the offense as a whole. So we've talked about quarterbacks with Barron and Will. We talked about running backs with Quentin, with Dickey, and with Jacoby. We've talked about the receiver room with Micah, CD, Coy, all those guys. Talked about the offensive line now and tight end. Where do you guys feel like this offense will – what do you think the ceiling is, and then what do you think the floor is for this Texas Tech offense in 2025?
Do you want me to give the pessimistic case first?
I want you to do whatever you want to do.
Give the floor case.
Yeah, I think the floor, like – I just have such a hard time envisioning Leftwich's scheme not working here. I know there's a non-zero outcome that's the case. Maybe it's real clunky and Barron just doesn't work. Yeah, the pessimistic case is just Barron's not equipped for this. He doesn't have the chemistry. It doesn't work till later in the season, so you kind of see a resurgence toward the end, and it's just not clicking initially. You're not able to replace Josh Kelly's like third down production. The Taj Brooks effect, where he bailed us out of a lot of really bad situations. You're not able to fully overcome that. The offensive line doesn't gel. This is where every single 50-50 or 60-40 or 70-30 thing goes against your way. I still think it's a top 10 offense in the conference. I don't see how this is going to be worse than Arizona's offense or Houston's offense or West Virginia's offense or things like that. That outcome exists. Arizona probably thought the same thing going into last year with Tedero McMillan and Noah Fafita. How is this offense going to be bad? Well, I mean, there you go. Have a bad play caller. That's kind of the bad case for me. I mean, right now you're rated as the top offense in the Big 12 per SP Plus, who is kind of like the Bible of it. And it's a top 10 offense in the country. I think it's 9th per the last update. So there are extremely high expectations on this offense, some of those are well-founded. Some of those I think maybe are a little unfounded, but maybe Clayton can give the upside case, and I'll chip in if I have anything after that.
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of good points for the floor. I think I'll mention one thing on the floor, and then I'll go to the ceiling. I feel like if something were to go wrong, to me, it's like with the receivers, like you said with Josh Kelly, like maybe like Caleb Douglas is not ready to be like the number one and be the attention of the defense. If you lose someone to injury, then you're going to be relying on someone who's really unproven at this level. Even without injury, I mean, like you need Virgil to translate. You're probably going to be playing Roy Alexander a good amount. Micah Hudson's probably going to play, who's obviously talented, but has not done much on this level. So I feel like to me, if I envision a world where like the offense is really bad, I feel like the receivers being bad are like a big part of that.
Yeah.
But then for ceiling, I guess it's just really the flip side of all this. Like the talent that you brought in the O-line translates to the best offensive line that you've had in like a decade. The receivers are good enough. Like someone takes a step, Virgil translates, Hudson is good, Caleb Douglas takes a step. And then, I feel pretty good about the running backs, and I think we know what Barron's going to be. So I really think like ceiling relies on the O-line and the receivers hitting.
Yeah. And I think, that scenario where like if Reggie Virgil is a star, and you don't need all of the guys to be stars, but if like Reggie Virgil and Terrence Carter are both really good, you are going to have a really good offense.
Yeah.
It's if Quentin Joyner and Terrence Carter are both really good, you're going to have a really good offense. You know what Caleb Douglas is. You know who Koy Aiken is. You just need like 2 of the 3 position groups to really hit. If you have all 3 hit and Barron is just what he is last year, let's not say the same stat line, but the same quarterback, you're going to be significantly better offensively than you were last year. And so I can see that case, and you can make that case pretty rationally as an objective fan. Somebody that's looking at it from the outside in. Man, I the projection that I'd make, probably the median outcome is probably like a top 20 offense. I don't know that I see top 10 offense like at the 50th percentile outcome, but
You're talking nationally?
Yeah, nationally. I think, and that would be maybe top 25. Let's say offensive line is okay, receivers are okay, running backs are okay. Yeah, I still think top 25. You just have too many things that I think are going for you for this unit to completely fall apart.
I agree. I feel like there's too many playmakers. There's too much talent. Yeah, of course, not every single one of those is going to translate this year, but not all of them are going to fail either. Like, there's too many.
And this is absent any sort of like Barron gets hurt, Caleb Douglas gets hurt, 3-year starters, like absent anything like that. I don't see this going that way.
Well, I think.
Sorry.
Or go ahead, Clayton.
No, I was going to transition, so you give your thought.
Well,
I was going to ask.
I'll just say,
question.
I think if this receiving group is better than last year, which I think it can be. If Micah if Micah is just something, right? If Micah is just something, if Virgil is just above average, if Caleb is the same as what he was, if Koy is the same as what he was, like if you have that group together along with these 2 tight ends, I really do think that you will see a better, a new and improved Barron Morton, because there were times last year where no one could get open except for Josh Kelly. I mean, there were just like, and Kelly even, sometimes couldn't even get open because Kelly, as good as he was last year, was not the fastest receiver. And so you did have some trouble with him at certain points getting open. And so I think this offense, assuming the offensive line hits, assuming you have a better offensive or better receiver room, which I think is, like Zyler said, pretty rational at this point, if everything works out, barring injury. I think this could be a top, 17, 15 offense in the country, assuming all of those things go right, because I do think all of those position groups, tight end, receiver, offensive line, running back, let's just say running back will take a regression. I mean, it's just going to. Taj is your best, your all-time leading rusher. He's great. But if you have all those things elevate, running back maybe take a little bit of a regression, I don't see why Barron Morton is not going to be a better quarterback than he was last year. Even if he plays the same way, I think his just natural. I think he will be elevated because of all those other position groups being better. So that's where I would go with it. But again, it is June. There have been, we haven't started fall camp yet. There have been no injuries yet, so it can all change. But I just believe in this unit. I believe in Coach Leftwich. I think it's going to be a really good year for the Texas Tech offense.
Yep.
Who do y'all think
it should be
outside of? Like, you can't say Barron, but who do you think is the most important player on the offense? I don't want to make it like injury related, but like who would be the worst player to lose?
Howard Sampson, without a doubt, to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it's either him or I think there's an argument for Caleb Douglas, honestly. Yeah, but I would say Sampson too.
Because if you don't have Caleb Douglas, you have like no good returners that are like really, really good in the conference, and you have no like elite proven transfers. So I think there's a case for that. But I think you have 3 tackles right now. If you want to count Jados as your 4th, you can. He's just not that would be like getting a Caleb Rogers again at the tackle spot, like fine, but not necessarily going to be elite. He's just a huge part of what you're going to need to do. And you need him to be good to anchor that left side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that one position, if you have that one, if you have that spot set, I mean, that's why, other than quarterback, the most important position on a football team really could be argued to be the left tackle. I mean, protecting the blind side, being the anchor. I mean, it's, there's a reason why those guys in the league get paid what they get paid, right? I mean, that's a big spot. And so if you have a guy like Samson that can be what we think he can at his size, I mean, losing a guy like that and having to play, to shuffle people around on the offensive line, I mean, that would be a killer. Like if he went down in the first 3 games and you didn't even get to see him in Big 12 play, that'd be really discouraging because of what he can be and what he's already been to some degree for this team.
That would be incredibly depressing.
Yep.
Yeah. What would you think? So let me ask this question as well as we kind of think about the offense as a whole. If let's say the unthinkable happened, but it's not really unthinkable for Texas Tech, and we lose Barron. We lose Barron. Week 3. We've lost quarterbacks plenty of times in the last decade. How would your prediction for this offense change? Would you feel worse? Would you feel better with a Will Hammond going in there?
No,
Zyler, I teed it up for you.
I think you'd have to expect some regression. The coach, if Will was better than Barron right now, he would be the starter. I think Barron's experience is going to help him out. He's just been in these games. He's been in the Big 12 a long time. He's traveled to a lot of road games. Will has traveled to 5?
5.
Barron's probably got 20 under his belt at this point. And I think it would I will say this, the rushing upside for Will Hammond would be exciting. I just don't think you would see the passing efficiency that Barron should be able to give you this year. And the leadership, hopefully, but I don't want to talk. I don't want to get into this. I don't want to do this again.
You don't want to do it?
I'm going to stop there.
I want to say the hook out, and I'm trying to see if anyone will bite. I know Brennan would bite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not today, sure. Conrad. Not today.
Not today.
Not in June. Not in June.
I think having Barron is just such a I don't know, like in my head, I don't know if I feel a whole lot worse about Will Hammond having to play like after, he's a sophomore, he's going to go through the whole spring with the starters. Mm-hmm. But I think having someone like Barron, like Zyler said, like he's played 2 years for you when you have so many other new pieces, new coordinator, like that's just such a stabilizing factor at the most important position. So I think especially, losing him mid-year, I think would be rough rather than like, if for some reason you went into the year with Will Hammond. I don't know if I feel a whole lot differently then, but losing him mid-year would be pretty rough, I feel like.
Yeah. Well,
good questions, Conrad.
I'm trying to be like Brennan, man. That's my goal. And when it comes to hosting the Broadway Shuffle and on the golf course, I'm trying to be like Brennan. But yeah, this has been fun doing a preview episode of each position group and combining the offensive line with the tight ends. I think that was a fun conversation. It's exciting to see what this team can be. I mean, looking at this team on paper, you have a lot of potential. I mean, this is a team that there was a lot of money spent on this team, a lot of resources invested, and the Texas Tech fan base is excited for what this team can be, and rightfully so. I think it's good to have excitement. I think it's good to believe in this team. I mean, season tickets are sold out. You're seeing different, single game tickets going fast. I mean, it's an exciting time for Texas Tech football. And so thinking about this offense, I feel very optimistic about it. I think I'll go on record and say it'll be a top 15 offense in the country. I'm very optimistic, believe in these guys, and think that the best is yet to come for Texas Tech football. So for Zyler, Clayton, and Conrad, or does Zyler
have one comment.
Something?
I had somebody approach me, and I know that we've temporarily suspended the Kool-Aid Factory, but they said you can't be the owner of the Kool-Aid Factory if you don't pick us to win every game. And if you don't do that, they're going to come and take the factory from you. So just want to let you know that from a loyal listener.
Well, from that loyal listener needs to be informed that the Kool-Aid Factory is a privately held company. It is not public. You cannot buy shares in it. It is 100% owned.
Baby.
Nationalizing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we may have to talk about the Kool-Aid Factory. I don't know. That's the first time I've thought about the Kool-Aid Factory in a long time. So it has been a while.
Anyway,
we need to start thinking about it.
Close.
So, well, yeah, no, it's been a good show, Miss Brennan. But for Zyler, Clayton, and Conrad, thank you for listening to this episode of the Broadway Shuffle. We'll be back next week, starting our defensive previews and then getting into some other interviews as well. We're excited about what this show is going to be this summer and excited for the fall as well. So for Clayton, Zyler, I'm Conrad, and for Brennan as well, Recom Tech, and we'll see you next time.